All right, here we are. This is the Starfield section, and I wanted to create, a 360-degree star field, and no matter what direction, up, down, that you went, there were stars. So I wanted to try a new technique, and one of the techniques that I found in Blender community was that somebody created using just a surface, and what they did was use the nodes, texture nodes, and created a texture that is black and white and looks like stars. So all of these nodes here, I'm not going to go through them, but you start off from the left and you go to the right. It says world output here, and let's zoom in so you can actually read that. Okay, world output, and it comes into the surface, and this is a background node. So the background node is going to have all these other nodes that come in that tell the parameters to create a background that is 360 degrees, and it's seamless, so there's no seam to it. So that means that there's no beginning and no end, just like we perceive the universe as having no beginning and no end. This background literally has no beginning and no end. I can change those parameters of how many stars by this color ramp here, and you can see it goes black to white, and it's basically a gradient. And a gradient in 3D graphics is something that can gradually dissolve from color to color, and what I did here, following the instructions that I read, was that the gradient here, let's move the black to here, see what happens. And you can see in the preview that there is more white and less black, and basically the pattern that you see here, okay, it's moving real close, it sort of looks like if a pattern that you created with a sponge and took some paint and then took that sponge and made it real dry and just blotched it onto a wall. And that's actually a technique for painting, for making clouds, or works really well for making leaves on a tree. All right, and that's basically what I did here. Use that pattern and just lessen the space, put more black space in between the white. So let's move the gradient here to 5. Okay, and here's position 0.5. I'm just going to move that a little bit to 0.55. All right, and you can see that there is less white and more black, creating the illusion that there's stars there. Okay, and let's move that up, and there we go. Now I made the stars larger. So okay, now the stars are more blotchy, and let's move that back down to maybe like point. Okay, now you have even less stars. Okay, there we go. I have a 0.918. And let's move that down a little bit more. Okay, so that looks like a nice star field. Okay. There we go. That's your star field. Fun. I like When I'm working, doing 3D work, I like the process of 3D work. It's probably more fun than actually the final image. If a process is really interesting and fun, it makes a hard project a lot easier. It makes it smoother, and I'm more about the process when it comes to art than I am the final product. When I'm finished with it, okay, it looks great, but it took 3 years to do, and hundreds of hours of rendering time, and all for 7 minutes and 24 seconds. And then most people, they watch it and have no idea how I got to that point, and that's why I'm putting together this series of documentaries more than a tutorial. Because if I was doing a tutorial, I would be going into a lot more detail than what I am here. This is more of a documentary, so the average person can get an idea of the process and appreciate what I did. Because digital work is just people look at it and go, whatever, and because they have no idea the process, and it's all the same techniques that I learned doing painting murals and doing tight illustration with pen and ink. It's the same disciplines. It's just digitally. Here we have the final image. It took 4 minutes and 44 seconds. Used 509.97 megabytes of RAM. So let's switch over to compositing. Okay, to create the starry field that I have, you can see that when I added the streaks here, and it's this one here, let's try low. You can see they're going to change here. Okay, and you can see that they're a lot larger, and even the background here, I didn't like that. It was too jaggedy, and I think I went with high. Because unfortunately, the way I composited this, it took all the highlights, everything that was glaring, and then put the streaks to it. Takes a moment here, and there you go. You can see that the stars are very sharp. Okay, let's move in. Here we go. And you can change the amount of streaks if I'd want to have 6 streaks. And there's your star field, and that's the composite. I hope you've enjoyed this part. This is part 2, chapter 2 of creating an epic world.